where India's LPG supply faces renewed pressure as threats of further disruption in the Strait of Hormuz intensify following the collapse of US-Iran talks in Islamabad. India imports nearly 60% of its total LPG requirement, with around 90% of these imports traditionally routed through the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point now at the center of escalating naval tensions. The government has so far maintained that domestic supplies remain stable, with priority being given to household consumers. However, analysts warn that any prolonged blockade or an intensified mine clearing operations could tighten the availability and push up import costs sharply. Domestic 14.2 kg LPG cylinder prices currently stand unchanged at approximately 913 rupees in Delhi and 912.50 rupees in Mumbai for non-subsidized users. Subsidized Ujjwala beneficiaries continue to get cylinders at lower rates. Commercial LPG prices, however, have already seen recent hikes due to global volatility. Let's now compare the LPG prices in India versus our neighbors and around the world, because that will help us understand this situation much better, how the world is reacting to gas prices and how India has managed to stabilize this. So, let's look at the LPG prices comparison with India and its neighbors. India's will remain stable over here at around 900 rupees per cylinder. This is a 14.2 kg cylinder. Let's look at Pakistan, where the price is in Pakistani rupees and it's around 3,589 rupees per cylinder. So, it's crossed the 3,500 mark as well. Let's look at Nepal, where the cost is in Nepali rupees, where the per cost of the cylinder is around 2,010 rupees. So, again over here another of our neighbor, the cost is upwards of 2,000. Let's look at Bangladesh, where we are measuring it in Bangladeshi taka, where the per cylinder cost is around 1,728 rupees. So, this is also in the upwards of 1,500 rupees. All our neighbors are facing the brunt. Let's look at Sri Lanka, where the price is around 4,765 per cylinder in Sri Lankan rupees, clearly an escalating price over there. Let's look at the price of New Delhi, where the price is around 912.50 rupees per cylinder. And let's compare it to the world now, the LPG prices. In Beijing in China, the cost per cylinder is around 120 to 150 yuan, which is around approximately 1400 to 1750 equivalent when we compare it to Indian rupees. So, they are also seeing an escalated price of LPG. Let's look at Tokyo, Japan, where the price of a cylinder in Japan is now costing a consumer 6,000 to 8,000 yen, which is approximately 3,300 to 4,400 rupees. That's a lot. Japan has obviously even spoken widely about how this war has in fact made its economy suffer. Let's look at New York, US, where we are seeing the per cylinder cost at around 18 to 25 US dollars. This is around 1,500 to 2,000 Indian rupees. So, still it's more than what we are paying here in India. Let's look at the UK. In London, the cost per cylinder is around 45 to 60 pounds per cylinder, which is around 4,800 to 6,400 rupees in Indian currency. So, over here in the UK as well, they are seeing a lot of price hike in LPG cylinders. Let's look at Paris, where the cost of a cylinder is around 30 to 35 euros, and this is approximately 2,800 to 3,300 in Indian rupees. So, everywhere across the globe you are seeing that the price is more than 1,000 or 1,200, upwards of that. Let's look at Spain. In Madrid, the cost of a cylinder is around 16.35 euros, which is around 1480 rupees when we compare it to the Indian currency. So, even Spain is seeing an increased price of LPG cylinders. Let's look at Germany. In Berlin, the cost of a cylinder is around 30 to 35 euros, which is around 2,800 to 3,300 Indian rupees. Everywhere you go across the world, the lowest seems to be in India. Let's look at Bangkok in Thailand, where we are measuring the currency in baht. It's the per cost cylinder is 450 to 500, which is around 1,100 to 1,250 Indian rupees. So, over here as well, even though it's slightly reduced as compared to places across the globe, it still is more than 1,000 rupees. Let's look at Canberra in Australia, where Australian dollars, the cost of a cylinder will be 35 to 40 Australian dollars, which is equivalent to 1,900 to 2,200 Indian rupees. So, this is something that we are obviously seeing an increase in prices across the globe. India has managed to stabilize its domestic LPG use. However, commercial LPG has seen two increases over the past 1.5 months because of the volatility in the global market. Let me go across to Mr. Jain on this. Mr. Jain, how are we going to look at the LPG supply now that we are going to see a renewed blockade in the Strait of Hormuz? India was first, managing to get its ships out of that strategic waterway. And every week we used to see some or the other LPG container actually make its way back to India, so that we do not feel the pinch. However, now that we can see at a total naval blockade in the area, how will India now deal with this situation, sir?
You have given details about the prices in different countries. And first, referring to that, I will say it is not fair to compare prices of Australia, America or Europe with Indian prices. Our cost of living is totally different. We get a cup of tea for 10 rupees. If you go to America, Europe or anywhere in Japan and anywhere, the cost of tea will be at least $5. Or say cost of a mineral water. Nowhere a half a liter of mineral water you will get it for less than $1 or $2, whether you talk of any current country. You said about Pakistan, we all know the currency, the Pakistan's financial position, they are totally broke. In terms of US dollar, their currency is nowhere. We are still holding below 100. So we are far more stronger. So these are absolute comparisons in rupee terms, which I don't think it is very fair to do it, and it is very giving us a very correct interpretation of LPG prices all over the world. But still I will say that we are at the lowest end. Maybe because LPG prices have been heavily subsidized by the government because of the cost of living. A common person, we know how much he earns in India and how much one person earns in America or Europe, etc. So let's first be happy that we are paying much less as compared to the world. But then coming forward to the future is definitely challenging, undoubtedly. Okay. Our ships were passing one by one so far, but this American initiative to hold all the ships which are even paying the toll, now that's going to be a real problem for the Indian supplies also, because probably we were paying toll and getting our ships out one by one, and we were getting the supplies.
Unfortunately, so sir, I have to interrupt over here. I